There are many reasons why it would be nice to have instant hot water at the kitchen sink. So we're going to try to accomplish that by installing this Thermomate point of use hot water heater. This should be a fairly simple install. All we need is a 110 volt outlet and enough space to put this heater under the sink. So let's get to it. These Thermomate units can be hung on the back with a bracket or just set in place. So just moving it around here, seeing what the best place for it is under the sink. The left side has the garbage disposal, which takes up a decent amount of room. So I think I'm going to settle facing outwards on the right hand side underneath the sink, just like this. Like all hot water heaters, this does have the chance to pressurize. To protect itself from overpressurization, it comes with a safety relief valve. That's the first thing we have to put in place. Pry off the little cover on top here. Use some Teflon tape and screw it into place. The next step is to connect our water lines. On top of the Thermomate unit, we have 1/2-inch male NPT fittings protected by these red and blue plastic covers. You have two main options with this point of use hot water heater. You can take your existing hot water and run it through it, and that way it'll sit in this hot water heater and keep it warm. So you have instant hot water heater that's backed up by your main whole home hot water heater. But I want the ability to control the temperature of this water separate from my main water heater. So I'm going to block off the hot water line underneath the sink here and then connect the cold water to this unit and then take the hot water coming from this point of use hot water heater directly to the faucet. That way I can use the thermostat on this unit and dial in the exact temperature I want for the kitchen sink. The existing PEX tubing in my home was pretty easy to work with. Here I've got the connections made. I put a T in the supply side or the cold water side to feed the unit on the right NPT fitting, and the left one I'm tightening up here is the hot water going to the faucet. I used the blue PEX tubing. That's all the extra I had. I wasn't going to go out and run and buy red. There's no difference between the blue and the red PEX tubing. It's simply a visual thing to tell you where hot water or cold water is. Because water expands as we heat it up and then increases pressure, it is recommended that an expansion tank is added to the supply side of this hot water heater. I've decided not to do that mainly because there's simply not much room under here, and I'm going to set this at a very low temperature that's just good enough for washing hands and rinsing out dish rags, things like that. So hopefully I won't need it and the relief valve won't go off on the sink and get everything wet. After you've made your connections, you can turn your water back on, make sure the water heater is full of water, plug it in, and adjust your thermostat. And there's an indicator light to show when it's on. After the initial install, I could not stop the water fittings from leaking. Originally, I went with these 90-degree swivel fittings that are plastic, and I just couldn't get them to not leak. So I ended up cutting them off and replacing them with these straight brass fittings. This made life a little bit harder because I had to do some PEX 90-degree fittings to get it to work, but I was able to successfully install it without it leaking, so that's just what I had to do. Here's a look at the final install. Didn't turn out too bad. It does take up some room under the sink, but still plenty of room for most of our cleaning supplies. We've been living with the convenience of having instant hot water at the kitchen sink at the exact right temperature for a few weeks now. And to be honest, it's not something that we thought was missing in our lives, but now that we have it, it's one of those things that's difficult to imagine doing without. There is a very nice convenience factor of being able to turn the sink on full blast and have the perfect temperature for washing your hands or instantly washing out a rag with no waiting. If a Thermomate unit is something you'd think you'd like to have in your life, check out the video description for a product link. Thanks for watching. Adios.